Hello and welcome to Clean Class. My name is Tim, and I just want to tell you I'm so completely proud of you for tuning in today. I know that God has something powerful in store for your life. I want you to know this beyond the shadow of all doubt. You're going to get out of this what you put into it. And if you're serious about living life clean from pornography, lust addiction, from masturbation, from the things that hold men captive and that rob their destiny, God could absolutely help you do this. So I want to just set the tone, set an attitude of faith, set some expectation that you're going to get out of this what you put into it. And if you're serious about getting clean, God will absolutely meet you where you are. You're going to hear some fantastic testimonies of guys that have proven that this can happen in your life. You're going to hear some great tools. We're going to show you how. And at every end of every single session, you're going to be challenged with some practical things, some steps that you can take to help you live a clean life. Clean from these things that have plagued you for so long. So if you're coming to this, maybe your marriage is in trouble, maybe you just want some help, maybe you've been clean before, but you've been struggling in this area, I just want to let you know that there is absolutely hope for you. If I can do it, if we can do it, you can do it. So check it out.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us. You are in session 2 of Clean Class. So I am so proud of you because it means you didn't quit. Right. You didn't quit, right? We didn't quit. We're still going. We're still leaning in. You now have an understanding of why it's so important to God that He has a plan for you, that He wants you to walk a clean life, that He has a destiny. And just to recap, we talked about the enemy is after your destiny. That's why he's going after your sex life. He's trying to pull you away from what God made you for your purpose, for your destiny, for those things that will pass on to our children, those things that are generational. And we said it this way, if the enemy can seduce you, he can reduce you. Don't forget that. If he can trip you up, he can pull you away. He can pull you away from what God's calling you into. We said in the last session, imagine what your life would look like if you had no hidden sin. If you could walk into anything God called you to without that guilt, shame, and condemnation. We talked about some boundaries that you can set up. I hope that you put some boundaries in place. Some boundaries for TV, movies, video games, boundaries for the internet, what we see, what we access, what's in our pocket. It's important because it used to be a shameful thing to go into a store to buy a magazine. Now we can do it from our phones. We can hide it. And that's not what God wants. He has something better for you. Some boundaries on social media. Hopefully you went through and hid some friends, hid some people that just only pose in bikinis. You do not have to follow them. And then also relationship with women. I hope that you start to evaluate how you interact with women. One of the things that I love in our church is that we have an open door policy that we can only meet with opposite sex with the door open and during normal hours. It's not because there's anything wrong. It's that we want to make sure that we make a predetermined decision to have some safe boundaries, right? It's important. So this session, I want to discuss something, just a newer concept that I never heard until I went through this. Until I sat through this class, and it's about marriage. See, marriage is a trinity. It's between God, the husband, and the wife. It's important to God. And you're important to God too. He does have a destiny for you. You are one of His sons. God is pulling you in, your family. But I want to explain a different relationship. Not only are you God's son, but if you're married, you're His son-in-law. Different perspective. If you're not married, if you're single, which we have a few guys sitting here that are, if you're single, you might be God's future son-in-law. So it doesn't mean that you don't have to worry about this yet because, I'm not even married. You're about to be God's son-in-law. And why does this matter? It's because God cares about His daughter. God is trusting you. That's your first ministry. That's what we're called to lead. That's what our mindset has to be. And I would ask you this. What type of grade would God give you as a son-in-law? What would He grade you at? Come on. Would you maybe be passing? I don't want to be a C student anymore. Honestly, in my first marriage, I was an F. I failed it. and it's because I never had that concept. I never understood how important my family was and that I was responsible for leading it. See, God as a father-in-law, He loves your wife or your future wife too much to hide and protect your secret. To keep that in the dark where we can walk around and act like it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. It's a huge, huge deal to God. And if you only hear one thing, please hear this. A lot of times we're walking around thinking that we're living in a blessed life, that there's no consequences, that God doesn't care. I look at pornography, but I have my wife, I have my kids, or maybe I'm single and I'm having a good life and things are going well. I have a great job, but I'm sleeping with women. But I'll tell you this, you're probably living in God's patience.
Yes. Right.
You're living in his patience. That's not what he has planned for you. And there's always a consequence. It's not God's blessing. God has so much more for you, things that you can't even think of, and you're settling for less. You're settling for a quick fix. It's that big of a deal to God. And pornography hurts people. It does. It impacts those around you. There's real consequences. And as men, we're protectors. And I love to describe it this way. As a protector, we are given a sword. See, God gives us a sword and we can only point it in one direction. So if I put pornography and lust over here, I point my sword towards my wife, my future wife, my kids, my legacy, my destiny, my friends. I attack what matters most because I want to protect my hidden sin. See, I cover it. And then I end up hurting so many people when I don't think it really hurts. I'm blinded by it. When I turn around and I point my sword at the lust and pornography, now I start protecting my destiny. I protect my wife. I protect my future. It matters where we point our sword. And I worked for the military for many, many years. I love our military. Thank you for serving if you're in the military. But what I loved about the military was we'd always say, who has your six? Who has your six? Meaning, who has your back? Who are you going to watch behind you? See, you don't go into battle without a battle buddy. You have to have a battle buddy. And this is what God wants us to do, to be in relationship, just like we're doing here. We're talking as a group of guys that have struggled with this, that have come together and said, you know what, can you be my battle buddy? Yeah. Can you keep me accountable? Can you make sure I don't point my sword in the wrong direction? See, because a lot of times when war is going on and things are crazy, we'll sometimes point it at people that aren't our enemy. We'll start protecting the things we shouldn't, like, that one text isn't a big deal. You know, that one look's not a big deal. It's not going to trip me up. And I can tell you this, I heard time and time again about, man, I made about 6 months, or I made it a year, and then I slipped again. We've all done it. I remember when my first try at clean class, I was like, okay, I got this. And I didn't have that accountability. And the next thing you know, things started to slip in, and the next thing you know, I'm attacking the things that matter and letting porn be behind me, to lead me. God will always bring out the truth. He's going to show your wife. There's consequences for this when you go into a relationship if you're single. There's things that can trip you up in that relationship. It's setting expectations, and God wants that in the covenant of marriage. But without accountability, we don't even know who we're protecting. Maybe you're thinking, it's not that big of a deal. I'm doing better than others. I got a B. I'm passing. I might just check out the goods every once in a while, a ribeye over there, a T-bone over here. But in reality, that's not what God has planned. And let me show you why this is so important, even just checking out the goods. See, in James 1:15, it says, then after desire is conceived, it gives birth to sin. And sin, when it's fully grown, gives birth to death. See, it starts with a thought. It starts with what we talked about, what starts in your heart. And those thoughts just start taking over and taking over and taking over. And the next thing you know, you're looking back and you're like, how did I get here? How did I get here? As someone that was addicted to pornography, as someone that literally was an addict, that looked at it multiple times a day, no matter where I was, that just consumed it. I looked back thinking, how did I ever get here? And I used to think, God, is there any hope for me? And if he can use me, he's going to use you. Please hear that. You can do this. You're in week 2. And even if you slip, if you have to restart this class. Do it as many times as you need to. I remember 9 years ago, I had a friend come to me and introduce this class. And I remember walking through my divorce and I slipped up and I thought, man, it's done for. I just ruined my destiny. And God said, no, you didn't. Try again. Try again. Do it again. Do it better. Work harder. Put it out there. Make sure you have that accountability. And it was amazing that God is now using me to be able to share my story with you. That what the enemy meant for bad is actually being used for good. That's what God does. So why is it that James talks about death out of a thought? See, sin is a seed. And lust is a type of seed that we put in ourselves. It's a big deal. And what happens is we become professional evaluators. We keep planting that seed, planting that seed, planting that seed, and then it grows and grows and grows. And I'll put it this way. If you plant an apple seed, you get an apple tree. I don't care who you are. If you're a believer, if you're not a believer, if you put an apple seed in the dirt, you're going to get an apple tree. Yep. It's determined by the seed. The same thing is true about lust. When we put that seed in us, we end up making really bad mistakes with sexual immorality. We lower our standards. We end up in a place that we don't want to be because we planted seeds. And again, if you've tried this and it didn't work, pull that seed out again. Rip that seed out over and over and over until you're successful at it. And I don't care if you have a relationship or not. If you keep planting that wrong seed again, you're going to see it grow into something you wish that you didn't. Let me give you a counseling perspective. I sit with so many men over and over again, and it started like this, and this is the same for me. It's my story, is that when I was at a young age, it didn't seem like a big deal. It seemed harmless. It seemed like everyone was doing it. This is natural for you to have this sexual attraction. We don't see consequences. We don't think it's a big deal. And I can tell you this, by the time I started hitting my teens and my preteens, the lust started to grow. I started looking at girls. I started experimenting. I started looking up pornography. I started tripping up a lot. And what I found was I could not understand why I was having this issue. And to be honest with you, so many guys around me were having the same issue. It was like we were in the middle of a line of trees just growing the same thing. I couldn't understand why we were all failing at this. So I accepted it as this is the normal way. Yep. And then what happened was in my 30s, I ended up divorced. And that's the death that this sin comes from. It may not be divorce. It might just be a bad marriage. It might just be hateful thoughts on yourself. It might be the loss of a job. I've heard stories of guys getting fired because they're looking at pornography at work or because they had an affair that was inappropriate. And they don't know how they ever got there. And it's because they never removed that seed of lust that started so long ago. Yeah. You can predict what's going to come by what's planted. Lust is a seed and we're just dirt. You can be fancy dirt. You can be rich dirt. You can be good looking dirt like me. It doesn't matter. Fine dirt. But let me tell you one thing. You're dirt. You don't determine the outcome. That seed gets planted and it grows and grows and grows because you're just the dirt. That's good. We have to remove it. And don't quit because you can do this. Yes. You can do this. And so right now, I want to reiterate again the sword theory. When you point your sword towards pornography, you become a protector. When you point your sword towards your family, your destiny, your wife, your future wife, your kids, your future kids, you perpetrate pain. So I want to give you 4 characteristics of someone that perpetrates pain. The first one is that they have no commitment to being clean. They don't have a predetermined decision. And I remember there was a time I was like, nah, I don't want to look at that anymore. But I really wasn't committed to it. I was just waiting to get home till I had my own time. I was gonna just wait. No one really knows. I would say what I had to say, but I never went through the actions. The second thing is we have no plan. We stop there where we don't have a plan of accountability or who's going to be surrounded by us, or even going through this session. I want to condemn you for not condemn you. I want to congratulate you for going through this. Yeah. Congratulate you for leaning in and watching this video, because here's the thing. You're starting to get a plan. Yes. You need to have a plan to be clean. That's right. Mm-hmm. The third thing is perpetrators of pain have no real boundaries. You know, last session we talked about boundaries, and they always talk about how they want to live a clean life, and they're going to do this, and they keep trying. And then you ask them things like, well, why don't you get covenant eyes? And they're like, man, that costs like $12 a month. And you're like, really? You drink Starbucks every day. like you don't want that future then. You're not committed to it. You're not willing to do anything it takes. You're not putting any boundaries in place. And the fourth thing that I see with perpetrators of pain is this. They're not honest. They're not honest. They say things like, it's not a big deal. Or, I'm good. I got this. You know, I hear it time and time again where a guy will tell me, you know what, I got this. And then he sits down with me and he goes, I'm getting divorced. He sits down with me and he goes, man, I slipped up. Man, I got her pregnant. They're not ready for it. They're not doing it under the covering of God. They haven't set it up the right way. And these are people that perpetrated pain because they didn't make that commitment. They pointed the sword at their destiny, and they protected their secret. They protected what they wanted and what their flesh desired. This is hard. This is a commitment, guys. This isn't easy. Every guy in here knows this is not an easy thing. I've struggled with it for years, but you can do this. Now, let me tell you the difference between a perpetrator of pain, someone that's just causing pain to others, and a protector. See, a protector makes that commitment to be clean, and they find the tools to get there.
Come on, man.
See, that's what I believe you're doing right now in this video session. You're making that commitment. You're putting some boundaries up too. You're getting those tools and that right way forward to walk a clean life. It's a predetermined decision. And what you're doing is you're starting to put your destiny and your family behind you and say, you know what, I got this. I'm going to go after that. The second thing is they have a plan. They have a plan. It's not that difficult, guys. Find a plan, commit to it, adapt, adjust. That's where we talked about boundaries. Some things will trip you up, some things won't. Make sure that you have the appropriate boundaries. Have accountability in your life. Find those people that can help encourage you to walk a clean life. The third thing a protector does is they're honest and accountable. They'll tell you about their struggle. They'll tell you that they've had hard times. They'll even come up to you and tell you that they tried numerous times. And I remember thinking, my first clean class that I went to, it was a bunch of guys sitting around and talked about two things. They asked about pornography and masturbation and what woman is a current threat to your relationship with the Lord or your wife. And I was like, peace, I'm out. This is too deep for me on week one of coming to this group. And we've all been there like, guys, I think I'm out. You guys have a great night. But I'll tell you this, I still remember how real they were, how authentic those leaders were, how vulnerable they were. They didn't hide it. They didn't do it in a prideful way. I remember one guy, he's like, I just can't get past this, man. Every time I get online, I should just get rid of my computer. I'm going to burn it. And I'm like, that is a commitment. And I remember that. And I remember that sat deep. And I wish I could tell you that right then I decided to make a change in my life, but it was 4 years later before I even made that commitment. Yeah. It took me hitting my rock bottom, walking through a divorce, and sleeping with someone while I was still married, waiting for that divorce to finalize. And I saw that I was no better than anyone else, that I didn't do what a protector would do, but I perpetrated pain. The last thing a protector does is they set consequences for their behavior, negative consequences. And we'll explain more next week what that means. You don't have to implement it right now, but what I want to tell you is this. We have to have something that costs us more so that we don't keep going back to that behavior. Right. I've heard everything from a guy eating a whole onion, peel and everything. That's disgusting. I don't think that's that bad, but I mean, I'd take that over some other things. I'll tell you my personal one. It's a jar of mayonnaise. If I slip and I look at pornography, I would have to eat a jar of mayonnaise. Oh, I hate mayonnaise. And you might be sitting there going, that's not a big deal. We had a guy in our group one time say nacho cheese, and I was like, I'll take the cheese. That's fine. It's an individual thing that you have to look inside and say, what cost me more than the benefit, that satisfaction, that short high that I'm going to get? Yeah, come on. And we're going to discuss that more in coming weeks and coming sessions, is what is released during this, the endorphins that come out from a sexual release, and why we are so willing to throw away our legacy and our destiny for a quick release, for a quick high. So what I would encourage you is this: start thinking about what kind of negative consequence that you can come up with. It can be anything. It can be picking up trash. It can be a cold shower for an hour. It can be eating cucumbers. I don't know. I don't care. But what it has to do, it has to cost you more than you think. It could be paying money to the other political party that you support. Let's just do something crazy, guys. But the whole thing is, it starts getting you to think, how do I make this commitment? How do I start understanding that I'm already trading in my future, so I need to do whatever I have to change, to repent, to have those boundaries. You know, I want to encourage you one other thing too. I want you to think of 2 accountability people this week. 2 people that you can trust, that can be your battle buddy, that can watch your 6, that you're not walking around in this world being attacked all alone. I want you to understand that you need this. You need accountability, and you need to let them speak into your life. I love it because I'm around a group of guys that we all keep each other accountable, and we don't always love what the other person has to say. You don't have to like it, but when we're accountable, when we're open to it, we get better. When we understand that that person loves me, even when I don't want to hear it, we get better. They're the people that sit there and go, man, you can do this. Man, you got this. Hey, did you do your consequence? They start holding you accountable and moving forward. So I want you to pray about that. I want you to identify two people. And let me tell you this, you never know, maybe they're going through the same struggle. Maybe they need to hear your story. Maybe they need your authenticity, and you guys can do it together. I'd encourage you, start a group. Watch these videos together. Be real, be authentic. Let's knock those walls down. Knock those walls down. And I hate, as men, we always say we don't talk about this. But how many guys sit around and brag about the girl they went home last Saturday night with? Or the girl they saw at the gym doing squats? We do talk about it, just in a different way, in a prideful way, not in a humble way of, I need this. I need to get healed. I want my destiny. I want my future. In the next session, we're going to discuss these consequences. We're going to discuss how to implement them. We're going to discuss why you need to retrain your brain from what you've been taking in for years, and hopefully help you find a way to be clean. I love you. I just want to encourage you, and I'm so proud of you for sticking through this. I can't wait for session 3 and 4, and I look forward to joining you then. God bless.
Well, before clean class, it's kind of different than other guys because I actually became clean about 6 years ago. We were, by one of my previous job, I had to travel a lot. And so I would be in the hotel rooms at 3 weeks out of the month. I'd be in a hotel room and I was looking at pornography on my phone. And in my mind, I wasn't cheating on my wife, because it's a woman on the phone, but in real life, or in the truth of it, I was lusting after her. I was lusting after another woman and not my wife. And like Pastor Doug says in the lessons, God is my father-in-law. He ratted me out. He told on me. And I came home one night and my wife was ready to get intimate and I had no interest in it. And so she looked at me, she asked me, she said, are you looking at pornography when you're out of town? And I was like, yeah. Like, kind of, I thought you knew, but yeah. And the look on her face, I'll never forget it. It wasn't sadness, it wasn't anger, it was hurt. And she just looked at me, and I'll never forget the look on her face and the sound of her voice. She said, please stop. Man, the way this class helped me, again, is seeing the victory in other guys. Because, and again, it's a constant reminder. Just because you defeated the dragon, don't think there's another one not trying to get you. There's always going to be an attack. And the fact that this class benefited me was because I have my guys that I can be accountable to, and I'm accountable to them. So, like I said, the class is an amazing class. It's a difficult class to be honest in. Men don't want to talk about this. But once they see it, and once they realize that every man's dealt with this, it's a great class to be able to take and teach. I was introduced to pornography, and I struggled with it probably since the age of 10. Like I said, we all had those late night channels that we would sit there and watch, and it just kept growing from there. It just kept growing because it's almost kind of like if with a drug addiction or something. A little bit at first doesn't really. It starts off okay, but you kind of get bored of that, so you start looking for different things to fix that sensation that you want. Like I said, it probably started around 10, and then when I got to, like I said, when I was talking about when my wife asked me to stop. So that was probably 20-something years, 20-plus years that I dealt with that. Let's see, I've been clean for, I'm going to say 6 to 7 years. 6 to 7 years I've been clean. Like I said, the lust still tries to chase you down, but like I said, along with clean class, you're able to fight those demons. My life after clean class now is great. It's like I said, I was clean before, but you get with Clean Class, you get a better understanding of what God's trying to do for you. I mean, to give you a voice for the nation. I mean, that what he's waiting for you to take, he's willing to give that to you, and you just demolish it with, you know, the lust and the pornography. But life now, I mean, opportunities have opened up, personally, spiritually, professionally. And I mean, I just can't be more grateful enough for what the Clean Class has done for me.